Hello, and happy marvelous Monday, everybody. I hope that you are well. I'm super excited that you are joining me today. Listen, throughout the entire month of August, you already know it's the Tenants Cleanup Campaign. Listen, I'm super excited. I am so excited to join you today. I'm Karissa Spann, the landlord and tenant coach, and it gives me great pleasure to come and join you live today. Please let me know where you're tuned in from. Show me some love in the comment section. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Thank you for tuning in on my Facebook page, my YouTube page, and my LinkedIn page. Listen, the thing that I love about technology is that we could be anywhere in the world and be at the same place at the same time, right? So August is all about tenant cleaning up. So we had this tenant cleanup campaign, and we pretty much just offered incentives for people to kind of just get into the mood of cleaning up. Usually on Mondays at 7:30 p.m., I share information for landlords as well as tenants, but for the entire month of August, it's all about tenants. And so last week we picked a very lucky winner. And the only requirement to enter the giveaway was to provide pictures before and after cleaning up. And so, yesterday, we check the emails. Today, we check the emails to look for the pictures so we can choose the best possible candidate for the giveaway. And I just want to say that unfortunately, nobody sent in pictures for this week. So, with that being said, today I'm just going to share some information, give some tips on cleaning, and I am going to share some pictures. So, if you tuned in last week, you know that I did share a few pictures. But the one thing that I do want to emphasize is that. For this giveaway, it's not about embarrassing people, but it's about bringing awareness into people's lives so that they will understand that other people do actually care for them. And so I have cash giveaway, I have gift baskets to give away, and we're just waiting on people to send pictures of their home before and after they clean up. Like, how cool or how awesome is that? You have to pay nothing. It's free 99 to enter the giveaway. You just have to email me, carissaspan@gmail.com. My team and I will take a look at the emails. We'll take a look at the pictures. And again, before and after cleaning. And so today, since we don't have anyone to give money to or gift basket to, I guess I will go ahead and take some questions if you have questions for me. And so, usually on my Facebook, my YouTube, or LinkedIn Lives, I answer questions. I discuss subject matters and topics that are relative to landlords as well as tenants. Um, and so, because I didn't have my Q&A at the beginning of the month, I'll go ahead and take some questions today. So ask me any questions pertaining to landlord and tenant matters, and I will cover those today. But let me go ahead and acknowledge some people who are here today. Let me know which jurisdiction you're tuned in from if you're in the DC metropolitan area. If you are one of my students, if you're one of my employees, if you are one of my clients, a landlord or tenant, let me know in which capacity you're joining us today. Hello, Renee. Thank you so much for tuning in. Beautiful. Listen, I love it when my students, they show up, they show me love, they show me support. Hello, Kenya. I love and appreciate you, beautiful. Hello, Jennifer. Hi, beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, Yvette. How are you, beautiful? Okay, so Renee, you are tuned in from DC. All right, DC is in the building. Kenya, yes, you better represent. Kenya, you are a student, a former student. You should have added that, Kenya. You are a former student. You took my class, you passed it with flying colors, and I am so excited for your future, for the progress that you are making. All right, Yvette, you said, should you have a license to be a landlord if you rent to a family member? That is a great question. I get that question almost every semester. Um, and so, one of the things that I commonly share, Yvette, is this: if you treat your business like a business, it will pay you like a business. But if you treat it like a hobby, guess what? It's going to pay you like a hobby. So, yes, you should absolutely have a license. You should have a business license anyway. You should also have a lease. If you're renting to a family member, you should have a business license if you're renting to a family member, because here is what I know about life: things happen. Okay. And let's just say you have rental property, you let family stay there. Let's say something happened, and who's to say that, let's say maybe hypothetically, and hopefully this doesn't happen, Yvette, but let's just say hypothetically something happens and you have to go to court, right? So if you should happen to have to take your family member to court, the court, the judge, they're going to look at whether or not you have a business license. Okay. You don't want to get yourself in trouble because you don't have what's required to legally do business in that jurisdiction. So I would say check the laws in that particular jurisdiction, whether it's DC, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, New York. Find out what the law requires you to do. Okay. That's number one. Now, remember, I said we're going to use this hypothetical situation if you have to go to court. So if you have to go to court, you should always make sure that you have a lease in place. I don't care if it's your twin, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your mama, your daddy, your great grandmama, your great grandmama. Always have legal documents and things in place to protect you, because here's why: it's better to have it and not need it versus needing it and not having it. So that is a great question, but I would definitely encourage you, or anyone, I encourage everybody to set your business up like a business, um, because you never know when you'll need it. And here's the thing: let's say your family member, they decide to move on in life. Maybe they come into this large sum of money and they decide they're going to purchase their own property. You still want to have those things in place just in case you have to rent to somebody else, and you don't want to get burned. So always protect your asset. Okay. Protect your asset at all costs. Thank you for that question. Renee, you said, yes, I'm a former student as well. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. You are a former student, and I do appreciate you. Hey, Mr. Evans, DC is in the building. Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. You said, in DC, do you need a BBL, which is a basic business license? That answer is yes. If you're renting property in the District of Columbia, you do need a business license to rent your property. You want to have it because, just as I shared with the other viewer who asked the question about, um, should she have a license, or should a landlord have a license if they're renting to family members? Here's the thing: you want to have it because if you have to go to court, I always like to err on the side of worst case scenario, right? So, and of course, we never want to imagine or think that we have to go to court, but let's think worst case scenario. If you have to go to court, the judge will require that you have a business license in the District of Columbia. It's always been a requirement, but a lot of landlords, they got away with it. But since the pandemic, the laws have really tightened up in the District of Columbia. And the first thing the judge will ask: do you have a business license? They want to see the lease. If not, your case can be kicked out of court. So you don't want to put yourself in a hot seat. And just depending on the size of the rental property, your business license in DC might be as little as $324, just depending on the size of the property. And so, if you need more information about the District of Columbia, I would encourage you to check out the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, DCRA. You can go to their website and you can look up what it costs to get a business license, whether it's a one rental, two rental, whatever the size of the property. You can look that information up on their website, the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs. And Mr. Evans, if you need more information, I can give you a specific contact number so that you can reach somebody. But the process is really simple. But thanks to the pandemic, the laws have really tightened up in a lot of places and areas, including Washington, D.C. So thank you so much for that question. All right, Kenya, what if you are renting and the landlord is not keeping up with the repairs? The house is falling apart. You are doing your part, but the landlord won't respond. I get that a lot, Kenya, believe it or not. And what I would say to that is send the request in writing. So I don't know if your landlord has a portal. If they don't have a portal, maybe send an email or a text message, because it's not what you know is what you can prove. So you want to create a document trail showing that you've asked your landlord to make the necessary repairs. Give them a time to respond. If it's an emergency, 24 to 48 hours would suffice. If it's a regular routine repair, I would say 72 hours. And if they don't respond, send another request. And after that, you can always contact the inspector's office. So just depending on where that rental property is, if it's in Washington, D.C., you can contact the DCRA, Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, ask for the inspections office. Uh, can you hit me up offline? If it's for you or for someone that you know, I can give you a number to the inspector's office. You will get an immediate response. Somebody will either come out, they give you an option to have the inspection conducted in person or virtually, meaning that they'll do it over some sort of uh, smart device. So whether it's a laptop, tablet, iPad, or cell phone, inspections could be done virtually or in person. So that is a great question. Thank you so much for that. Hello, Christina. Thank you so much for tuning in, beautiful. Okay, Miss Harris, you said you would love to have that information. Absolutely. So please see me offline, contact me offline. I'll get you the number for the inspector's office. Here's the thing. Even in the pandemic, although we are no longer in the pandemic, landlords are still required by law to maintain a home that's decent, safe, and sanitary. But what exactly does that mean? And I know that there are a lot of new landlords that are coming on the scene, a lot of new investors who have never managed property, have never managed people, who have never managed maintenance and repairs. And so those are three different components that people, um, I believe, Renee, you already know they should have taken my class or they should sign up for my class, right? But I believe that a lot of people, they get into the business, they get into the industry, um, for various reasons, but they are not knowledgeable. So they don't know how to maintain rental property. They don't know how to manage that relationship. They don't know how to manage maintenance and repairs. And so being a successful landlord or housing provider, it goes so much further than collecting rent at the beginning of the month. Landlords are required to make sure that anything they are responsible for in that rental property, it doesn't matter if it's a condo, apartment, a single family house, a townhouse, doesn't matter. If they have a rental lease agreement in place, usually the lease will spell out the responsibility of who is going to take care of repairs. So if the landlord is responsible for maintenance, plumbing, electrical, things of that nature, paying for utilities, um, whether they have the money or not, they are still bound by the terms of that contract, which is that rental lease agreement, also in accordance to whatever the laws are in that particular area. And so some landlords don't recognize the importance of making sure repairs are completed. True story. I had a gentleman who, many, many years ago, he wanted me to represent him. He wanted to pay me to become a client, and he has a lot of rental properties scattered throughout the area. And I think in total it was approximately 214 rental units that he had. Um, and I, although appreciated the opportunity, I declined because he was a landlord who did not like to make repairs. And so what I gathered out of that was he wanted someone to be the face of his problem. And he had not completed repairs for majority of his rental units in so many years that he ended up in court. The tenants were instructed to pay their rent into escrow. And it had gotten so bad that the courts took over his property. And so the money that some of the tenants paid in the court registry, he couldn't even receive because he didn't complete repairs. There were so many issues, so many housing code violations, to the point where I'm not sure if he ended up losing the property. Hopefully, he sold it, but he didn't recognize the importance of taking care of the repairs, because when you are conducting a business in jurisdictions such as Washington, D.C., that are pro tenant, meaning that the laws are strongly in place and in favor of the tenants. Landlords must make those repairs. If not, they can suffer the consequence for not doing so. So with that particular gentleman, I felt really, really bad for him, but it was no way that I can put my name on anything of his because I would then take on face of his issues. So the housing code violations, they range from leaky faucets to mold, rodent issues, mice infestation, bed bug infestation, roach infestation in some of the units, depending on where the property was. It was reported that they didn't even have running water, which was his responsibility. And so this is why I put a great emphasis on landlords making sure that they are conducting inspections so that they'll know what repairs need to be made, because it is always in the best interest of the landlord to make repairs when it's small, right? Because if not, the problem will not go away on its own. And usually it will cost more money if the problem gets worse. So, in a situation where, let's say, a 3 or 4 level apartment building and the tenant on the top floor has a leaking toilet, right? That has started to run down to the unit below. Well, what does water do? Water will run off. Water will find the least resistant path. And so one problem created a nightmare. It leaked for so long, for so many years, that a problem that originated in one apartment ended up impacting multiple apartments, which was way more money. And so I strongly encourage landlords to do inspections and complete repairs because, in the end, it will save you money if you jump on it when you recognize it's a problem. So, that is a great question. And I will definitely get you that information. So, let me go back to the comments. And Miss Harris, you want information for the business license as well. I got you. Okay, so Renee, you said you have to develop a relationship with the resident as well. Absolutely, you understand. Um, Here's the thing. So remember, I talked about managing the relationship with the tenant, that landlord and tenant relationship. It's so important. I am dealing with a landlord and a tenant at this current point of time. The landlord hates the tenant and the tenant hates the landlord. And so there is this fight, if you will, like there's this back and forth. The landlord wants the tenant out, and the tenant knows that. And so this tenant has decided to not pay rent to make the landlord's life a living hell. And this tenant recognizes that the courts um, have a backlog, and so they're not calling cases as quickly as they did previously. They're calling court cases, but because of the pandemic, it created a backlog, right? And so this tenant understands that and has made it extremely hard for this landlord. So the tenant decided, you know what, since you are disrespecting me as a landlord, you don't value or appreciate me, not only am I not paying you rent, but I'm going to make your rental property worse, in a worse condition than when I first moved in. And so now the tenant has started to just do stuff to the rental property, and they have changed the locks. They refuse to allow the landlord to come in. It is a nightmare. And so this is what happens when people don't respect each other, when people don't respect boundaries, when people don't understand it is a business. And so this is why I always say, treat it like a business. If you treat it like a business, you don't allow, as a housing provider or landlord, if you treat it like a business, you don't allow your emotions and your feelings to get involved. You don't wear your feelings on your sleeve. You don't say things because you're in some sort of emotional uproar. You don't make lasting decisions from a temporary disagreement or dispute with your tenant. You treat it like a business. You treat every tenant with respect, provide customer service. Now, here's the thing, because I've been in the industry for almost 3 decades, right? There is nothing that escapes me. And I have seen so many tenants, no matter how nice you are, no matter how sweet you are. And those of you who are watching, who've been tuned in for a while, or my students, you've heard me say that you can catch more bees with honey than you can with vinegar. And sometimes it really doesn't even matter how nice you are to people. They sometimes, some people will find a way or a reason to not even care and will still go above and beyond to try to ruin your day or destroy it. But even in that, you still remain professional. Treat it like a business. Okay, Kenya, can your landlord change your lease after your lease is up? Can they make changes after you agreed upon your lease? Great question. And so, yes, landlords can make changes. And so, for instance, sometimes if I am coming upon a lease renewal, and Kenya, I know that this is something that we cover, right? So, when it comes to a lease renewal, we usually like to give how many days notice in advance. Some of my students put in the chat box, put in the comment box. When it comes to a lease renewal, what's the best amount of time to give a tenant in advance, letting them know that you're going to renew the lease? Um, and so while those comments are starting to come in, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna move forward. So usually you want to start out, you can start out with a 90-day notice, saying, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Tenant, it's been great to have you. Your lease is close to renewal. We would love to keep you. We would love to have you remain in our rental property. Um, the lease will renew on X date. The rent is going to increase, or we are changing some of the terms to the rental lease agreement to include maintenance and repairs, or pest control, or amenity fees, or fees for whatever. So, whatever the changes are, I strongly recommend, and I tell landlords to, again, give the tenant advance notice and then to also make it clear in writing what the changes are. So, great question. Yes, landlords can change the terms of the lease agreement once that lease is up. But now here's the thing, and let me add to that, Kenya. If and sometimes this happens. Let's say the lease is not up. Let's say the landlord, within the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months, right? They come on these live and they listen to me telling them what they should have in their lease, right? Sometimes owners or landlords, they will try to change terms of the lease, although um, that agreement hasn't been up, right? So it could be a short term lease, but it must be in writing. It must be clear. So if it's a 3 month lease, a 6 month, a 9, 12 month lease, at the cessation or at the point of that lease being renewed, then I would strongly recommend any changes that are going to take place for both parties to negotiate that. And tenants, yes, you can negotiate with your landlord if they are trying to impose some new changes. You can negotiate. Just say, "Hey, listen, I would love to stay here, but I am not comfortable with the new terms. Are there any other terms that we can agree upon, or would you consider allowing me to stay another year before you implement the new changes?" So you can definitely ask as a tenant to negotiate the terms of the agreement. Okay, Christina, here you go. Miss Spann, I requested my ledger. I noticed a double credit for my rent. I keep track of all my records. I went in the rental office and explained that it's a double credit for the same months. So I paid and it was given back. The and you were given back the money. Um, and was told the ledger is correct, but you know for a fact that it's double credit because you had the same credit the prior month. Will this hurt me in the long run? That's a great question. So I would strongly recommend that you keep a record of what's paid. Make sure you have a receipt of your rent that you're paying. You keep accurate records because sometimes you can have a new property manager, a new owner, maybe new technology, right? And sometimes there are hard stops in the business process because there are some disconnects somewhere. It could be an accounting error, it could just be a human error, it could be a technology error. But keep your records, keep your receipts, because you want to make sure that if anything ever happens, that you protect your asset. Okay, great question. Good evening, Pearline. Thank you so much for joining us from ATL. Love you, love you, love you. Okay, so Kenyon, you said 60. So this goes back to my question. How many days in advance should a landlord give their tenant that they're going to renew the lease or renew changes that's happening in the lease or possibly a rent increase? Absolutely. So, Renee, you said that's the truth. Fails. Hey, Fails, thank you so much for joining me today. You said 60 days. Absolutely. All right. Hello, Mr. Willa. You said, okay, where can you find rental assistance? So that's a great question. And in order for me to answer that, I need a little more information. So, are you asking for a tenant or are you asking on behalf of a landlord that's seeking assistance for a tenant? And then also, I need to know where the rental property is because that will determine where you can get renters assistance from. So, if it's, for instance, in the DC metropolitan area, you can maybe contact ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program. As a matter of fact, multiple states and cities have ERAP. And so I would just suggest to do a Google search for ERAP for renters assistance, rental assistance for, let's say, delinquent rent, a new move-in, perhaps maybe like first month's rent or security deposit. There are a lot of programs in various communities. So if you just send me some information, I can look up the area and send you some resources just depending on where that area is you're inquiring of. Christina, you said thank you. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. This is what I do. So today, since I don't have a giveaway, I don't have anybody who sent pictures so that we can give away cash and prizes and gift baskets. So today is just all about Q&A. I'm going to show you some pictures, however, because for the month of August, I am giving away, there's this August tenant cleanup campaign. So the only requirement, hello, Muhammad. Thank you for tuning in. So I've asked tenants to provide pictures before and after they clean up, and we would enter them into a giveaway. And again, it's not to embarrass anybody, it's not to cause people to feel ashamed, but it's just an incentive to say, hey, listen, it feels good, it feels great when you leave out of your home, whether it's an apartment or whatever, and you come back and it's clean, it smells good, it looks good, right? Um, all of those things matters. And so, although I've shared this information for tenants, I know that there are a lot of people who own their own place and they're having some struggle or some challenges with keeping it clean. I know and recognize that things happen in life, things happen to people, things happen to the best of us, right? And sometimes cleaning is just not on the to do list. I know people who own their home and they have never really cleaned. And if you go in their home, if they allow you in, they're embarrassed because of the condition. Things happen. Sometimes people are so depressed. People don't know where to start, right? So I'm going to show you some pictures today, and I want you to see what it's like on the inside when people are maybe depressed or stressed out and they don't know where to start when it comes to cleaning. So we talked about this last week as well. All right, so let me pull up some pictures and then we're going to talk about what we see in the pictures. So many of you know I'm also a housing inspector. I have inspected hundreds of homes, probably thousands of homes in my tenure and career. And like I said, nothing really escapes me or surprises me. And I believe that it's because of that that I have a heart for what I do and really helping people to understand the importance of maintaining a good home. Okay, so here is a picture I'm going to show. And I want you to look at the picture and tell me in the comment section what you see. So here's our first picture for the evening. Okay, so in that picture, in the comment section, what did you see? I'm going to pull the picture back up. And when you see it, put it in the comment section for me. Okay, so that's the first picture I want to discuss today. So we're talking about what we see. And this is a true story. Um, I was privileged to be able to help this particular tenant. And in that was an apartment. And in their apartment, there were so many issues. There were so many things going on. Um, and although I'm not surprised to see the condition, what I was surprised about was the fact that the previous manager, prior to me coming in, did not do a good job with taking care of that rental property. And so, fortunately for me and my team, we went in, we were able to offer that tenant assistance and get them the help that they need. So, I'm going to pull the picture up one more time and in the comment section, let me know what you see. Okay, so let's discuss what we see here. All right. Kenya, you said need a new bed and money issues. All right. And then you added they may have lost income and don't know how to get help and resources. That's a good point. So here's the thing. Christina, you said no sheets and cardboards in between the plastic. Oh, you saw that too. So here's the thing, and I'll pull up the picture one more time. So in that picture, they did not have any sheets, which is correct. Yes, they do need a new bed because that bed was heavily soiled. Um, Renee, you said the condition of the room, the mattress, and things misplaced. Absolutely. And so that particular tenant did not have the money to buy sheets for the bed. And so they slept on the bed. The bed was so bad that it had bed bugs. And the problem didn't get any better. As a matter of fact, it got worse. And we were able to offer some resources and get this tenant some help. They ended up getting a new bed. Their apartment was treated several times for bed bugs. We were able to help them get some new clothing because when people have bed bugs, sometimes depending on how bad the infestation is, sometimes they have to get rid of their furniture as well as their clothing. And unfortunately, in this tenant's case, they did have to get rid of the bed. They had to get new carpet and they had to get new clothing. And so we were able to help, and I'm so happy about that. Renee, you said it's a mindset, um, mental and physical disorder is what it is. Absolutely. Absolutely. So people of all conditions need help, right? Let me pull up another picture for the evening. And let me see if I can find the next picture. So this next picture is not quite as bad. It just depends on what you feel about it. But let's talk about it. So here's our next picture. Let's talk about what we see in this picture here. Okay, so we just looked at a picture. Hardwood floors. Did you see the level of filth on the floor? And I'm 100% positive that when that tenant moved into that rental property, the floors did not look like that. Let me show you the picture again. And so in this situation, the tenant never cleaned the floors, never swept, never mopped. And when you walked on the floor, it felt like you were walking on some sort of stickiness. Sound like bubble gum. Like, have you ever walked on gum and it was stuck to the bottom of the shoe? Well, that rental property had so much filth on the floors that when you walk on it, your shoes literally would get stuck to the floor. And this is a problem. A lot of people who live like this Sometimes they are ashamed, sometimes they are embarrassed, but then you have those who don't care, right? Um, but here's what I do know, and I've shared this several times before. People would do things for two reasons, either because A, they don't know, or because B, they don't care, right? And so sometimes tenants genuinely don't know how to take care of a home. And although it might be common sense for some of us, common sense is not so common for everyone. And so, because nobody told them to sweep the floor at least once a week, to mop the floor at least once a week, there's a buildup. So, dirt just keeps adding up and piling up and growing and growing and growing. And the dirt keeps piling up, and you have people that just keep walking over it. So, it just kind of keeps it pressed down, really packed tight together. And so, unfortunately, in that apartment, the landlord had to redo all the floors. And it was really heartbreaking because they spent a lot of money. They had to sand it, they had to treat it, they had to stain it. Um, that costs more money than a tenant just taking a broom and a dustpan or mop or Swifter or whatever to clean up the dirt. And so this is why we have these conversations so that people will know the cost and the impact of not cleaning up. So in that situation, the tenant expected a security deposit to be returned when they moved out. So they paid almost a little over $3,000 to move into that rental property. And when they moved out, they requested that money back in full from the owner. And the owner said, screw you, there's no way that I'm giving you your money back. And you've destroyed my rental property. And so it was a really intriguing conversation that took place between the two. Let me just say in the nicest way that neither of the two of them were civil. There were no agreements on anything. Um, I felt really bad for the tenant because the landlord never went out to make repairs, never conducted inspections. They collected their money at the beginning of the month, and that's all they did. And then the tenant didn't take care of the property as well, so it was a lose lose for all parties involved. And unfortunately, that happens. And so this is why I share this type of information here. Okay, Renee, you said possibly mildew or mold could be just plain dirt. It is just plain dirt, a combination of dirt and a lot of other stuff. Kenya, you said the floor is filthy and looks rotten. The tenant needs a housekeeping class. Absolutely, I agree. Christina, you said a condition like this also have an effect on your health, upper respiratory infection, and many other infections as well. So it's a lot that can affect someone living in conditions as such. I agree. I agree because it impacts the quality of the environment, the air, what you breathe. And so a clean home is always a healthy home or usually a healthier home. So let me show you one more picture for the evening. I can go on and on and on as I've inspected so many homes over the years and apartments and things of that nature. So let me find another one that I can share for the evening. All right, so here is our next picture. Now, let me just say, brace yourself for this one. Let's take a few seconds to look at the picture. Let's discuss what we see. True story. I took this picture myself as a housing inspector. Again, I'm not usually surprised. I'm always prepared, but let's see how you feel about this one here. All right, did you see the picture? Let's see if I can pull it up again. All right, so let's discuss what we see. If you saw it, put it in the comment section for me. Let's discuss what we just saw in that picture. Um, this is a rental property that is occupied, it's not vacant. Someone lives there, someone lives in that condition, in that environment. The picture, I promise, looks a lot better um, than actually being there in person because it's way worse in person. So, in addition to how it looks, it's extremely smelly. Smelled like that tenant had cats that had never used a litter box. It smelled like cats had used the bathroom in that property for years. Um, it was just really, really bad. All right, so let me go to my comments that are coming in. Christina, you said mold and the floor is a trash can. Absolutely. The floor is a trash can. So I'm not sure if you noticed the bed. The bed also didn't have sheets on it. The bed was horrible. Um, that is a child's room. That's a child's room. Oh my is right, Pearl. Renee, you said this is definitely a safety hazard, not livable, not a livable situation at all. Absolutely not. And as a housing inspector, I had to write my report as such to say that that rental property was not habitable. The property was so bad that it should be condemned. And maybe at a later date, I can come back and show additional pictures, but it's not a habitable environment to live in. And I felt really bad for the tenant. I felt probably as bad for the owner because over the years, and it took years to get to that point, over the years, the tenant refused to allow the landlord to come in and to make repairs. And so the landlord didn't know that the place was that bad. They were almost in tears. And I felt really bad because I have a heart for people, I have a heart for what I do. I almost wanted to cry with them because it was just that bad. So, Kenya, you said that's mental health and abuse, and how many times is the property inspected per year? So, unfortunately, that property was never inspected because the tenant refused the owner to enter and had not entered the property in at least 10 years. And so, because the owner self managed, was not knowledgeable about um, property management, they didn't know that they could have taken a tenant to court because that was a lease violation. But then again, I don't even know if they have a lease. I didn't ask that question. I wasn't there to manage, I was just there to inspect. And so sometimes, and that goes back to, I think it was, who was it? Someone asked a question earlier about a renter's license or a business license. Yvette asks, should you have a license? If you're a landlord, should you have a license to rent to your family? Yes, and here's why. Because even family will live in this type of condition. They could change the locks, they could not allow you to enter, and they can allow things to happen to the rental property. And what can you do? So there are a lot of things that people don't know. This is why I share this information each and every Monday, right here, my Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn channel. I share information to help the entire rental community. So if it's not you, maybe somebody that you know is a landlord or a tenant and may be able to use this information. If you see people living like this, please be mindful that it could be a mental health condition. It could be a mental health disorder. It could be a sign of depression. It could be a sign that their entire world is chaotic. And so sometimes when you go into a person's house, that would give the telltale sign of what's happening. Hey, Keith. Happy Monday, Keith. I got to get you back on. We got to do a segment together, Keith. We got to connect. I miss you, sir. Christina, you said before we end this session, can we please say a prayer for the families? Absolutely. Renee, you said yes, it's a business. Even with family too, please treat it like a business. So, Christina, I'm gonna go back to your comment in a second. As a matter of fact, because it is a special request and you asked it, I pray for the families. I'm going to close out in prayer. So, Keith, you said, yes, we do. I miss you as well. Listen, I know that you are doing great things, Keith. We have to connect. We have to connect. All right. So, today we talked about cleaning up the entire month of August. I'm doing a giveaway. And the only requirement for tenants to enter the giveaway is to send me pictures before and after they clean up. My email address, let me give you my email address, is Karissa Spann at gmail.com. Let me pull it up on the screen for you if I can find it. All right, give me 1 second. Here we go. So next week is the last week for the giveaway. Last week we awarded somebody by way of Cash App. I have more cash to give away. I have gift baskets to give away. Doesn't matter where you are. If you're not in my particular area, we will mail you the gift baskets. If you have Cash App, we'll send you Cash App. If you have Zelle, we'll send your money by way of Zelle. If you have PayPal or Venmo, we'll send your money by PayPal or Venmo. The only requirement is to send pictures before and after cleaning up. So last week we had one lucky winner. She sent in her pictures. We shared the pictures, and we sent the Cash App last week. So next week is the last week. Please make sure that you tune in. All right. So, Kenya, you said, do the inspector or property manager report this? Absolutely. And so, in situations like this, Kenya, so for me, I was hired to come in as an inspector to inspect the property on behalf of the owner who had finally taken the tenant to court. They had an attorney, so that the attorney's office contacted my office so that we can conduct the inspection. But yes, you can report tenants who are living like this, and I would strongly encourage that. There are so many resources available in the community. Hello, Mary Lou. Thank you so much for tuning in from the Philippines, Mary Lou. I believe it might be, let's see, it's 8:30 here. Is it 10:30 a.m. in the Philippines, Mary Lou? Let me know what time it is there. So a property manager, a housing inspector, or professional, they should report it. And again, there are resources available in the community. If it's a senior, they can report it to the Office of Aging or whatever resources that are available for seniors. But I would definitely say report it, because that way that owner can help that tenant to get the help that they need. All right. What's your question, Keith? All right. You said, I'm going to come back to your question, Keith. You can't mix family and business together. That's a big no-no. We should have a mindset to build our business. Now, here's the thing. I have a heart for people, right? So I believe that even when you are dealing with family, that you should still treat it like a business. Because actually, in many cultures and communities, you see families sticking together, they're rallying together, they're advancing together because they know how to make it work. Just make it work from a business perspective. I wouldn't say allow people to get over. I mean, because here's the thing, sometimes people need help, and that's what families should be there for, to help each other, but not as a crutch, and to not enable bad behavior, not allow people to get over. Because I remember that, I went through a time in life where I needed help, right? And so if you can help others, sure, but just put a time frame on it, like how long am I expected to help, right? So I would still look at it from a business perspective. Mary Lou, you said it's 8:35. Okay, so it's a 8:35 p.m. here, 8:35 a.m. there. Okay. Keith, your question, is there an agency out there to help these tenants to learn how to clean properly? Is there an agency, Keith? I'm sure there are organizations available, but not enough, not nearly enough places or organizations available to help tenants understand how to clean their homes, how to maintain a decent, safe, and sanitary home. And Sometimes tenants can absolutely not clean up, destroy the place, and still have an expectation that their landlord would take care of the rental property. And guess what? By law, landlords are still required to take care of the repairs according to that contract or what the law says they must do, regardless of what a tenant is doing. Now, in situations like that, I just encourage landlords to take the tenant to court to enforce their lease. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share today. Unfortunately, I don't have a winner because nobody sent me pictures for today. So I am encouraging you all, if you know a tenant who could use some cash, next week is the last Monday. Please tell them to email me. My information is at the bottom of the screen. All they have to do is email and before and after pictures of cleaning up. That's it. We'll select somebody. Well, since we still have cash and we have gift baskets, we may be able to do 3 giveaways next week. So we will see. Keith, you said because you deal with so many unclean tenants. I know you do, Keith. Um, and that's the crazy part because you would think that, especially in your area, because Keith, I know that you have a lot of high end properties, you have luxury properties, but it just goes to show that it doesn't matter, right? If it's high end luxury, if it's affordable housing, if it's urban, if it's suburban, it doesn't matter, right? People are going to be people regardless of where they are. It doesn't matter what the ethnicity is. It doesn't even really matter what their background is. Listen, let me tell you something. Um, my father raised me, and my father was a Southern man. He was strict. My father didn't play. Like nothing could be out of place in my dad's home. So I grew up with my dad because my mom died when I was very, very young. She died of cancer. So my dad, Southern guy, love my dad to life. And anybody who knows me know that, I'm a daddy's girl because that's pretty much what I had, my dad. But he was tough. We couldn't leave dishes in the sink overnight. The trash had to be taken out. We had to cook meals and eat meals together as a family. I believe that is missing. That's missing. A lot of people are not doing that, right? So when I had my kids at a young age, Pearline, you understand. Johnny Spann did not play, honey. My dad did not play, and if it wasn't clean, you got in trouble. You got a beating. Like he did not play. But I appreciate that because it taught me how to value a clean home. Now, um, my dad, he's gone on to glory. He passed away, but the same principles are still on the inside of us. And so I just strongly believe that um, parents should at least instill the importance of having a clean home into their kids. Get the kids involved. Listen, I had my kids cleaning walls, they clean outlets, they wipe down the doors. Um, and they understand, they value that now. Not to say that they always keep a clean place, and not that my place is always 100%, spotless, but they understand the importance and they know how to clean. And so instill those values in your kids. And so if you can relate to any of the pictures or any of the stories that I shared, and you might need some help, listen, connect with me offline. Let me see if I can get you some resources or some help in the jurisdiction that you're in. All right, Kenya, you said, Professor Spann, if no one enters or wins, are you coming up with a new giveaway? That's a good question. I never thought about that, Kenya. Maybe I will. Awesome idea. You are such a given soul. I wish more people would have participated. Thank you. Me too, right? Like I don't know, I just had it on my heart to do it. And I really, really, I honestly thought, Kenya, that more people would enter the giveaway. So can you help me come up with a giveaway? Help me come up with another giveaway if I don't have 3 winners for next week. Keith, you said, on another note, I would love to talk about domestic violence and abuse at another time. You're seeing a lot of it going on with some of the tenants. Okay, we can definitely do that. I know that VAWA laws are in place to help domestic domestic violence. I've seen that a lot, Keith. In some of the rental communities that I've managed over the years, I have seen tenants, primarily females, more women than not, more women than men. They were in domestic violent situations. They ended up moving to another rental property, and they ended up allowing their abuser to come to where they were at the new place. To me, like, it doesn't make sense, and I get it. Love is love, right? You don't stop. Sometimes you don't stop loving a person because they beat the hell out of you, right? Sometimes you still love them. Sometimes you still forgive them. But when it's a repeat issue and it's creating like a major uproar where you can potentially lose your housing at some point, I'm just hoping and praying that people will put their foot down and say, you know what, this is not love, because love wouldn't abuse me like this. Love wouldn't keep kicking my tail. Um, so yeah, let's talk about that, Keith. We can do a segment on that in the upcoming weeks. Renee, you said, what can you do if you have a leak and your property manager is informed and your water bill is going up due to the leak? I would suggest to contact the water. If you have to pay the water bill, contact the water company and ask the water company to come out to see if they could find out where the source of the problem is. So if you, for instance, if you have a leak, let's say it's a house, you have a leak and it's coming from the toilet. Take pictures of it. Let the owner know, hey, listen, I think the toilet is leaking, or the sink is leaking and it's creating an issue. So monitor the water bills. If you notice you have a leak, contact the owner. Um, if you have to pay out of pocket, get the water company out there to see if they could pinpoint the source of the issue, because sometimes the water company will pay for repairs, and a lot of people don't know that. Sometimes the water company will pay for the repairs and will invoice the owner. I've seen it happen. True story. So you said that's a question for Marilyn. Okay, same thing. Kenya, you said love is blind and dumb. I know that's real. When you need to love self first, would love to talk about domestic violence. You're a survivor. Listen, we can definitely do that. So I have another segment, I have another show that I will be rolling out. It's all about relationship connector. And so on that show, we'll be talking about domestic violence. I was in a domestic violent relationship as well. And then I'm also responsible for being an abuser, because I had a lot of anger. I mean, I didn't set out to abuse, the guy, but it was just one of those situations where, like I said, having been raised by a man, I didn't take crap off of anybody. I'm not the type of person that any person can use as a punching bag. I punch back. And so that's exactly what I did. Um, I'm not that person anymore, and I don't desire to be in that type of environment because it's not healthy, it's not conducive for success, it's not good on anybody's mental health, right? But I'm also a survivor as well, and so I understand what it means to just say no and to truly walk away, because sometimes, and this is totally not related to landlord and tenant matters, but I do have landlords and I have tenants who can relate to this. So I'm going to make it relevant while we have this time together. Sometimes people cannot love you the way that you deserve to be loved. The best thing that we can do is love ourselves. And so I have arrived and evolved to this place where I love me some me, right? And so people have asked, well, Karissa, why aren't you married? That's a choice for me, because at that time, I had not found anybody that could receive the love that I have for myself. I'm not looking for love. I'm looking to share the love that I have of myself with somebody else. You see the difference? Sometimes people are looking for happiness in other people. I don't look for that. I look for somebody that I can share my happiness with. I'm happy with me. I'm happy loving me. I promise I'm not going to do myself wrong. And so I'm looking to share that with somebody else. And so there's a lot, there's a lot of love on the inside of me. And I know that I can't just give that to anybody else because it's heavy, it's weighty. And you give something heavy to somebody that's weak and not able to handle it, it's not going to last. It's not going to work because it will crumble. They'll fall. There's going to be a fumble. There's going to be a flag on a play. It may be jealousy because they're jealous that you love yourself so much. Listen, been there, done that. So, another story, another segment, but I know that somebody can relate. All right, you are saying what, Keith? Unfortunately, I had a young lady lose her life. Oh my gosh, at your site. Oh, that just brought tears to my eyes, Keith. In front of her kids by her baby daddy. Yeah, we definitely need to talk about this. I've had that happen at a situation, in a situation like you, Keith, where I was managing a property. I've had that happen before, and it's heartbreaking. Definitely. Christina, you said you're a survivor as well. We'll love to speak on how and what it took to overcome and move forward. Absolutely, we're gonna talk about that. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about that a little bit in September. All right, Kenyatta, someone to add to your happiness. Absolutely. I want somebody I can grow with, Kenyatta, somebody that I can build with. Like I said, I love me some me. I love enjoying life. I love being happy. And so anything or anybody that's not going in my direction, so long, au revoir, serenata, anyahi keseo, adios amigo, and any other language I can think of. All right. Last comment for the evening. Can't wait for that session. Please inform you. Hello, Sully. Sully, thank you so much for tuning in. All right. So thank you all for tuning in. Listen, we want to say a quick prayer for those who are living in situations that are chaotic. The month of August is all about giving back to tenants. I'm doing a giveaway, and the only requirement is my information at the bottom of the screen. If you are a tenant, send me before and after pictures of cleaning up. I will select someone live while I'm on the air. I promise I will not embarrass anybody. I will not mention names, but I just want to give back. And so this is what I do. I enjoy making a difference. I had a request to pray for families who are going through this. So I'm going to close out in prayer today. Please make sure that you share this information. It costs you absolutely nothing to show up to get this information. All right. This is what I do each and every Monday right here on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. I love what I do, and it shows. So let's say a quick word of prayer, and then I'm going to let you go. Father God, in the name of Jesus, God, we thank you. God, for every person under the sound of my voice, God, we thank you for waking us up on today. God, now I thank you for every viewer who are tuned in. God, I thank you for every person that decided to share this broadcast. God, I thank you for those who are going to watch the replay. God, I pray that you would go into their homes, oh God. You would transform their lives, oh God. I pray, God, that you would transform their minds. God, I pray that they would be ready and available to open up their tent gate to receive from you. God, I thank you for the outpouring in this season. God, we talked about domestic violence on this segment today. God, I thank you that peace is now showing up, oh God, where there's been chaos, oh God, in the name of Jesus. God, I thank you for the new thing that has shown up in their life, God, because they've heard the word today that have gone forth. They received the prayer that I'm releasing in this at this hour, oh God. God, I thank you for the testimonies that are going to come. God, I thank you for the praise reports. God, I thank you for being God. God, there is nothing that escapes you. And so, God, I just want to say thank you because you know all things. You're omniscient. You're omnipresent. God, you're everywhere at the same time. God, thank you for being the first and the last. God, thank you for being Alpha and Omega. God, thank you for being the beginning and the end of all things. But God, I thank you for clothing your people, your sons and daughters, with wisdom that they will be able to escape situations that you never intended for them to have in their life. God, we love you. We glorify you today, for this is our prayer at this hour. For it's in the powerful, the marvelous, and the matchless name of Jesus we pray. Hallelujah and amen. Guys, my time is up. I thank you for yours. Mary Lou, listen, I love and appreciate you over in the Philippines. Karissa Spann, Landlord and Tenant Show is international. Please, please, please make sure that you tune in next week. If you have a tenant, if you know renters who could use some cash for this giveaway, listen, I got cash to give away. I have gift baskets to mail out. If you're not in my area, please show up next week. Don't leave me here with all this money to give away. I'm trying to give it away. All right. Next week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or whatever time zone you're in. Mary Lou is in the Philippines. It's what time is it here? It's 8:50 p.m. in the United States, and it's 8:50 a.m. in the Philippines. I love you all. I'll see you next week.